Hello everyone, Delene here. Today I'm going to take you through the proposed Occupational Health and Safety Act Amendment Bill from sections 9 to 15. Section 9, General Duties of Employers and Self-Employed Persons to persons other than their employees. Section 10, General Duties of Manufacturers and others regarding articles and substances for use at work. Sections 11 and 12 I'm going to put together. They are listed work. Section 13, duty to inform. Section 14, general duties of employees at work. And then section 15, duty not to interfere with or misuse things. Section 9, general duties of employers and self-employed persons to persons other than their employees. So up to now we have focused on the employee in the workplace. In this section we look at persons, for example the public. No significant changes to section 9 except that the definition as far as is reasonably practicable has been removed, which means the 4 criteria explaining that definition will not apply. Therefore there is no debate. You are going to do it, no excuses like I did not have enough budget or we did not have the knowledge or the PPE. You are just going to have to comply with section 9. So it says, every employer shall conduct an undertaking in such a manner to ensure that the risk posed by identified hazards to persons other than those in the direct employ of the organization who may be directly affected by the organization's activities are not thereby exposed to hazards to their health or safety, and the risk is managed in line with the risk management plan contemplated in section 8.2a. And you will remember section 8.2a was the mandatory requirement to perform risk assessments and to produce a risk management plan. Section 9.2 goes on to say, every self-employed person shall conduct an undertaking in such a manner as to ensure that the risks posed by identified hazards to that self-employed person and any other person who may be directly affected by the activities of the work performed on that premises are managed again in line with the specific risk management plan as contemplated in section 12.1. This now takes cognizance of the number of people who are involved in accidents where people are not even employed by that company or are people who are members of the public. Unfortunately, there are so many examples of injuries and fatality. So section 9 applies to all industries across the board where the public may encounter a risk. One of the culprits, of course, as we probably know, who comes to mind is the construction industry, where the chances of a public being injured or dying are really quite great. The next section that we are going to look at is the general duties of manufacturers and others regarding articles and substances for use at work. Incidentally, in this section, the old footstoots thing used to apply, but in this amendment it does not apply anymore. So the proposed amendment says, any person who designs, manufactures, imports, sells, leases, or supplies any article for use at work shall ensure that the article is safe and without risk to occupational health and safety when properly used. The article is accompanied by instructions which include precautionary measures to be adhered to, and it complies with all prescribed requirements. Okay, so for example, you might have a brochure or any information or instructions your company provides for your product. It's critical that you can explain precisely the meaning and the content of that brochure. Okay, then number 2, reading from number 2. Any person who erects or installs any article for use at work on or in any premises shall ensure that nothing about the manner in which it is erected or installed makes it unsafe or creates a risk to health when properly used. Well, for example, the SANS 10400 building regulation requirements must therefore be adhered to. I want to draw your attention to point number 4 of section 10, which says a person who manufactures, imports, sells or supplies a substance for use at work shall ensure that the substance is classified, labeled and packaged in the prescribed manner. This is definitely in the globally harmonized system and comes out of the most recent hazardous chemical agents regulation, which is now incorporating this GHS. And incidentally, the MSD terminology previously used, material safety data sheets, is now referred to as simply safety data sheets, SDS. So this section refers to listed work. The definition for listed work refers to work which poses a risk to health and safety, which requires very specific precautionary measures to be implemented. So there's some new issues or new items in this section, sections 12.1a. It is now mandatory to conduct risk assessments. It says an employer shall conduct a risk assessment in relation to such listed work and develop and implement a risk management plan in respect of the risks identified for that work. Then it goes on to section B, where it says a risk assessment must be conducted, and it must be conducted by a competent person to pronounce on all risks associated with that work. And the assessment shall be conducted by specialists who are competent to pronounce on all the risks associated with that particular work. So just take note of 12.1b, where it says that the risk assessment shall be conducted by competent specialists who are competent to pronounce on the risks. And then those specialists must be listed on the risk management plan after the work has been done, so that it can be seen that it was not a once-off exercise by one lonely risk assessor, but properly executed by a team of specialists. Then please note 12.1c requires that the risk management plan be available at the workplace, not somewhere else, like for example at your head office in Cape Town. If it's not at the workplace, it will be treated as a contravention. Then coming down to 12.1d, needs you to make sure that you will not permit your listed work to be undertaken unless you comply with the risk management plan. Section 13, the duty to inform, that is the duty for the employer to inform. This section deals with all the communication aspects referred to in the sections of the Occupation Health and Safety Act. Again, reasonably practicable is taken out. So in other words, you ensure that every employee is conversant with the risks attached to any work. For example, any article, any plant, machinery, substances, and so on. Please make sure that you fully understand the meaning of the word conversant. Conversant means that the person has clear knowledge of and can demonstrate that they understand fully what you are teaching them, and that they can totally realize what the risks are. Section 14 is the general duties of employees at work. The employees at work. The duties imposed on the employees has no major changes, except that it has been grammatically updated in the amendment. In the past, where the old Act only referred to the masculine gender, now the feminine gender is also included. Nevertheless, it goes on to say that every employee shall, at work, take care of his or own health and safety, and of other persons who may be affected by his or her acts of omissions, and regards to any duty or requirement imposed on his or her employer, must cooperate with that employer or other persons to enable that duty or requirement to be performed or complied with. They must execute a lawful order given to him or her, and if he or she becomes aware of an unsafe or unhealthy situation, as soon as practicable, they must report that situation to the employer or to a health and safety representative in that section. If, for example, they are involved in an incident which may affect their health or safety, might be injured himself or herself, they need to report that incident to the employer or anyone authorized thereto by the employer, to his or her health and safety representative as soon as practicable, but not later than the end of that shift. The last section that we will look at today is section 15, which is the duty not to interfere with or misuse things. We are talking particularly about things that are in place specifically for health and safety requirements. The section 15 says no person shall intentionally or recklessly interfere with, damage or misuse anything which is provided in the interest of health or safety. So you can't go and remove the machine guards because they are in the way or they are a nuisance. We can't, for example, use the fire hose reel to wash the boss's car. There could be severe penalties if this is done. So there we are. I hope that sections 9 through to 15 are a little bit clearer for you. These are the proposed amendments to the Occupational Health and Safety Act Bill. For other short YouTube videos explaining various proposed changes, you can visit my YouTube channel. You can go to Delene Sheesby, Safety Practitioner, and have a look at those. There will be more to follow, but for more information, please contact me, and the details are at the bottom of that slide. Thank you, everybody, and you keep well now.